Another international break, and as Liverpool fans, we go in a down mood in this international break. And international break is bad when you go in with a loss because it hangs with you for another 2 weeks. But our frustrations with Liverpool as fans this season are based on what we expected the team to be doing. Now, when you look at a Premier League winning team and you strengthen it with a lot of money and a lot of quality players, you expect the objective for the season to be retaining the title and maybe going for other competitions. Now, as fans, we can only deduce these objectives by what we see in terms of spending, by what we see in terms of what the club is doing. But nobody from the club actually comes out and says, this is the main objective for Liverpool Football Club in writing. This year, we want to win the Premier League. Then that way it would be easier to hold them accountable for that. But we can still hold them accountable based on what the standards of the club is and what they spent on the club to strengthen the team going into this season. Now, if we look at Liverpool's form this season, and we've had a lot of our frustrations with the players, we've had a lot of our frustrations with the manager, with some people going the extreme route of saying that Arne Slot is not the right manager to carry this team forward. I'm still of the belief that he can still turn it around, but I'm starting to not be of the belief that that turnaround will be good enough to win the Premier League this season. And here are my reasons. Most Premier League winning teams, if you look at Liverpool last season, we went on a run of unbeaten games that was extended. If you look at City the year before that, they went on a long unbeaten run. Like, you need to string games together where you're winning consistently or where you're not losing at all consistently. And that's why Arsenal have looked like the team that's going to do it this season, even though I still believe it won't be Arsenal. But looking at their form and their performances, you could think that they're putting a title winning run together. Now, that run needs to be much longer for them to do it, but at least they were showing some form. Whereas if you look at Liverpool, first 5 games, we were good. We were not brilliant because we still had to rescue those 5 wins that we got from last minute. But we could give it the excuse or the justified reason that we had a lot of new players coming into the team and we needed them to settle. Some didn't even play. The likes of Isak came in when the season had already begun, and we needed to allow him to have his preseason and bed him in slowly. And then after those 5 games, we had another run of 5 games where we could not buy a win with whatever money you wanted to spend. We had a terrible run. Now, that's 5 games, very good, 5 out of 5. And then 5 games where it's very bad in all competitions. And that run included us going out of the Carabao Cup with a very funny starting lineup, but an even worse bench. And Arne Slot did this last season where we went out of the cup very early, but at least we saw that our priority was the Premier League and we went on to win it. So nobody complained about that. But this season, if we're not doing so well in the Premier League, it would make sense that at least in the cups we try to gain whatever momentum that we can get, but we didn't do that. And then Arne Slot does a few tweaks, goes back to last season's midfield with the likes of Szoboszlai, Gravenberch, McAllister all playing in the same midfield, and he plays Ekatike and interchanges Gakpo and Wirtz on that left wing. We play very well against Villa, and we improve on a lot of the things that were problematic that made us so easy to beat. One of them being the set pieces and the long balls. Now, I was listening to a podcast where the son of Kenny Dalglish, I think it's Paul Dalglish, explained it very well on the Red Man. And he was saying that we were not losing these goals to long balls and set pieces because people were beating Van Dijk and Konate in the air. You can't beat Van Dijk and Konate in the air most of the times. But teams were not trying to beat them in the air. They were letting them win that first ball, but then lose the second ball. The second ball was what killed us in all of those games that we lost in that terrible run. And in the Villa game, you saw a bit more control with the second ball. You saw a lot more hunger to compete for that second ball once we win that first ball. And that's why that performance was a lot more balanced. We were very good going forward, even though it was just the one goal in it. But we were very solid defensively as well, defending those long balls very early in the game and winning those second balls as well. And Villa even changed that approach after the first 15, 20 minutes because they saw that they were not getting any joy from those long balls. They started playing a pressing. They started playing out from the back and playing proper football through the lines, through the middle, and we pressed them out of that game, and we won that game. We then went on to play Real Madrid, and that was the most complete performance this season. We absolutely battered Real Madrid, and we saw a lot of the positives that we gathered from the Villa win going into that Madrid win. Now, the funny thing is, we played weaker teams in the terrible run, and we didn't do these basics. Now we play the stronger teams in Villa and Madrid, and we absolutely play our best football that we've played all season. Now, going into the Man City game, if you were to make the point from that terrible run to say you've been out of a terrible run, or you are in a terrible run, and your next three games are Man City, Villa, and Real Madrid, a lot of us would have been happy to get away with 6 points out of nine. We didn't expect us to get anything out of those three games based on how terrible we were before them. So the context then changes for a lot of fans when we see that you can put in a performance that can win against Villa, you can batter Real Madrid, even though Thibaut Courtois puts in a world-class performance every time he plays Liverpool. So going into the Man City game, in that context, it would have been okay to lose to Man City. But the manner in which you lose to Man City is what becomes frustrating, especially when it leads to an international break. Now, when you look at how many games we've already lost so far, we've lost a lot more games than the likes of the teams that are in the bottom half. So we're not doing very well in terms of maintaining our title aspirations. So looking at Liverpool right now, you would be the most optimistic person if you were to say Liverpool are still in the title race. And the title race doesn't really begin until I think until Christmas time, around that time where the games are coming in thick and fast. But right now, as it stands, we need to take it game by game. I think that's the only way to avoid mental health problems, frustrations with Liverpool Football Club. We need to take it game by game. We need to evaluate the games as they come and see what our new objectives are based on the form that we would have maybe going into December. Because right now we are not looking like title contenders. Now there's still just 3 games in it. We are still only 8 points behind Arsenal, and I'm not sure how many points we are behind City, but Arsenal are the league leaders and we are 8 points behind them. That is a 3 game swing. That is a 2 game swing if they also dropping points heavily. And we saw them drop points against Sunderland, and they need to be very careful because once teams figure you out and they see vulnerabilities in your game, other teams gain confidence and they gain inspiration from that, and they push on to try and fight against you. We've seen this happen with Liverpool. So as it stands, we need to watch what happens in the international break. Hopefully we get Isak coming out of it not injured, because he's just recently come back and I think he's going to go play with Sweden. Hopefully we don't get any other injuries from any of our main players, and hopefully we come back and do much, much better in those games that are coming up after this international break. And to be fair to Arne Slot and the team, our form after this, not our form, our fixtures after this international break are much better than the fixtures that we just experienced before this international break. So hopefully we can gain a lot more momentum. Hopefully we can do a bit better in the Champions League and continue our winning streak that we just started now with Real Madrid. And hopefully this season will still be an amazing one for Liverpool fans. Whatever that's going to look like is going to be shaped by the events that are happening in November, December. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please do not forget to subscribe to the channel so we can start doing a bit more live interactions and do watch alongs and other things like that. Build an actual community. Comments are welcome. Speak about your opinions where you disagree, what things you agree with, and see you in the next video.